Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast which we disassemble a film from the Marvel Cinematic Universe in 1-minute segments and then examine it in obsessive and occasionally hilarious detail. I'm Kyle Olson from the Swashbuckling Ladies Debate Society podcast.
Hey, and I'm Rob Cabasco, and Kyle.
Yes, sir.
I know you share a lot of this, fans of space exploration. I got to get exploration out of my mouth here this fine morning.
I think I got caught on the SpaceX.
As the SpaceX. Oh, there's so much. Exactly. A lot going on. I can remember 11-year-old me, and I know we have talked about this, I think, on a previous season of the Marvel Movie Minute. 11-year-old me, 1983, I dragged my dad and brother to the theater to see Philip Kaufman's The Right Stuff. And of course, everyone knows The Right Stuff based on the Tom Wolfe's best-selling book. If you didn't know that, you probably do now because there is a new series of it on Disney Plus under the National Geographic brand. It is very interesting, and it's an interesting addendum to this movie. But this movie I love. I mean, I love it for the soundtrack. I love it for the acting. Amazing characters. We have actors Ed Harris, Scott Glenn, Lance Henriksen, Dennis Quaid, Sam Shepard, Fred Ward, Barbara Hershey, Veronica Cartwright, all these amazing people playing amazing characters, really true characters. But there's one character in the movie that I think goes unsung, and that is Edwards Air Force Base. Because a lot of this takes place, obviously, at Edwards. It is in Kern County in Edwards, California. It houses the Air Force Test Center, the Air Force Test Pilot School, and NASA's Armstrong Flight Research Center. But here's the really cool thing about this place. It has been the home of incredible, notable moments in the history of aerospace exploration. Chuck Yeager's flight that broke the sound barrier in his Bell X-1 in 1947 took place here. Test flights of the North American X-15, which if you don't know about the X-15, one of the unheralded stars of our early ventures into space. The X-15 was this black sort of dart-like looking craft that would be taken up into the air on the wing of a B-52 bomber, and then it would go off, and it did such amazing things for data and research on supersonic travel. The space shuttle, all different types of aircraft have their in their lineage. They owe a lot to the X-15. The first landings of the space shuttle, I can remember, were at Edwards Air Force Base. And in 1986, the around-the-world flight of the Rutan Voyager got its start at Edwards Air Force Base. It is a landmark in worldwide aerospace history. The reason why I bring it up, it is another character in the following minute.
That's true. We're going to be spending a couple minutes at Edwards Air Force Base here as we hit minute 61 of Iron Man 2 from 2010, directed by Jon Favreau. You're a couple years older than me, so The Right Stuff didn't hit me as hard. That sort of passed me by. But for me, I was still a big fan of I get the space bug, I guess it is. But for me, my movie was Space Camp.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Space Camp.
Yeah, loved that movie.
Yes.
I mean, you had a wacky robot and kids in space and a space shuttle, because the space shuttle was the coolest thing right then. I mean, I can't remember how many toy lines had their own space shuttle in it. I know Transformers had one. I believe G.I. Joe had one. I think did Mask have one? If not, they should have.
Mask had something close to it. No, G.I. Joe definitely had one. And Space Camp, you got to love Space Camp because truly an improbable, like the story is just, let's put okay. We have a shuttle on the launch pad. Let's put kids in it, play around with it. Hey, you know what?
Just for funsies.
Just for funsies. Let's put all the fuel into the rockets.
Yeah, right. And and pack it full of spacesuits and pressurize it and everything.
Oh,
I mean,
man, it's that's totally worth seeing. If you've never seen Space Camp, see Space Camp. That just brought back up.
It is a lovely piece of 80s cheese.
It really is. It's actually it's actually very funny.
So we pick up where we left off, which is Rhodey flying away. We start with on the contrails, I believe those are, as he rockets off in the Mark II armor, leaving Tony staring at him in I don't really know, because his visor is closed. So meant to, is it shame? Is it fear? Is it, that plan worked exactly as I thought it would.
Sentimental acceptance.
I guess so. I guess that's the nice thing with the flat face. You can just put any of your emotions onto it and you're fine. So your interpretation is just as valid as anyone else's. So then apparently either that party went really late into the night, or it was a long long flight because he goes from Southern California all the way to Southern California, and now it's dawn.
Did you get the idea?
It's really not that far.
No, hold on. This is the part where I do got to say something really funny happened here because it's broad daylight, right?
Yeah.
At Edwards Air Force Base, and we'll talk about what happens here. But here's what it makes me think of. I think Rhodey, before he was going to hand over the suit to the United States military, I think he went on some trips.
Oh, okay. Do you think there's a lost adventure there?
I think there's some
Rhodey out just like maybe he did his own. He flew by Palisades Park and waved at some kids in the Ferris wheel. And
maybe could have been Mrs. Rhodey, and he went to stop by and say, "Look what I got." He might have checked out some other things. Maybe this is how he got. Maybe he went and picked up some money in a few places to pay off that car that we talked about that he drives.
That's true.
No, it really does make you wonder because these locations are very close to one another.
Yeah,
and he's in a suit that he would have made that trip fairly quickly.
Very quickly, yeah.
There is something to say. Now, clearly, there's a reason why you do this because he needs to arrive.
Have the nice dawn. Yeah,
he needs to arrive in sunlight because we're about to talk about what happens. But something happened between point A and point B.
Okay. All right. Say there's an adventure waiting to happen. So maybe there's a Disney Plus animated movie.
Rhodey's Great Road Trip.
Yeah, Rhodey's Road Trip.
Road Trip. Oh, that's great.
So we cut to and the Chiron shows us on the screen, Edwards Air Force Base. So we know exactly where we are, and this is literally Edwards Air Force Base. The Air Force had a very good relationship with Jon Favreau and the team on Iron Man 1, and so for Iron Man 2 they said absolutely, and even Jon Favreau was shocked at the amount of help and assistance they gave, including allowing what do you want on the runway? So he got to sort of like a menu, go down the thing and say, here's all the ones, and we'll talk about those as they show up too. But they really rolled out the red carpet. I guess they liked how the Air Force was portrayed, which I think is very open-minded of them, because in Iron Man 1, they were not super... It wasn't necessarily a heroic kind of portrayal, because he did damage a couple of their ships, and he could have flew circles around some of their flyboys. But speaking of Iron Man 1, we have a returning character here, because as we are hanging out inside the control tower of Edwards Air Force Base, we see Major Allen. So Major Allen was also in Iron 1. He's the one that said, shoot him down. Like, he's the guy who was in control when Tony got caught over the DMZ when the planes were on there. So he's played by Tim Gooney. This is his second appearance in the MCU. And he has 161 credits on IMDb. If you've watched television in the last 20 years, you've seen him, because he's been on almost every major drama television show. A lot of times in uniform, but not always. This is actually not the last time he will be in the MCU. He will return in a couple episodes of The Punisher.
Oh.
Yeah. He got to start, Rob, you'll like this. He had a very good 1986, because he appeared, his first two television appearances were on Spencer for Hire and The Equalizer.
Oh.
Yeah,
that's a great
the original Equalizer, not the Denzel Washington remake. Currently, he is filming the new series, Clarice.
Oh.
And by the time you hear this, it might have already come out and been canceled, because that's the way things are going these days. Yeah, but really. That is the story of Clarice Starling after the events of Silence of the Lambs.
Oh,
where she basically is I think she spends every episode in therapy.
Yeah,
and we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But it's still a good gig for him. So so it's nice to see a returning face too, especially as the face of the military. So as they're going by, they get a radio transmission, and it says, "Edwards Tower, this is Lieutenant Colonel James Rhodes." I love he uses the full the full title. "Inbound from 3 miles east at 5,000 feet." And so we see him go, and he does one of those, I don't know, when you come really close, it's the
Tower, this is Ghost Rider requesting a flyby.
Negative, Ghost Rider, the pattern is full.
That is clearly an homage to Top Gun, because he does the fast flyby over the tower, and the papers fly up, and everyone shakes like, as the Iron Man suit, even though that's not. Okay, here's a question, a nomenclature question. That's not Tony Stark. Is that still Iron Man?
Oh, no.
So at this point, it's a guy in the Iron Man armor?
He's a guy.
Or it's a guy in armor. He's in Stark technology.
He's in Stark. Yes, that's what I would say. I would say that Iron Man, in terms of designating Iron Man, it is Tony Stark in, well, I guess you could say, he's kind of like the president in Air Force One. Whatever plane the president happens to be in, the American president, it is designated Air Force One. So whatever suit that Tony is in, that is Iron Man. But yeah, this is just a soldier in Stark technology.
Yeah. So, or does it, as soon as Rhodey puts on the suit, does he become War Machine, even though he doesn't have the name yet?
Oh yeah, I would agree with that. I think.
I'm asking the question. I'm just curious. Like, it's a question of at what point do you become the hero? Like
when the shield closes,
when the shield goes down,
when the helmet closes and goes down, that's it. It's official.
Then he's officially War Machine from there on in. They just haven't officially stuck the name to him yet.
That's it. That's pretty good.
So as they're cutting back and forth, then we see a soldier standing in front of what we know as the stealth bomber, but is actually known as the Northrop Grumman B-2 Spirit. It is the most expensive aircraft procured in the U.S. military history, with a total program cost of roughly, and this is in 1980s dollars, $45 billion.
$45 billion a pop.
That's with a B.
I mean,
people.
Yeah, that's that's insane. I mean, well, and you know what's incredible about these is that they're the flying wing. So if you don't know what are we talking about? This is the ones that, and they still fly them over sporting events. When we have sporting events, which we will again, depending on when you're listening to this.
Technically, they are still in use.
Yeah, they're still in service. Yeah. But this is a flying wing. The flying wing, that concept is like 70 years old. Like, it's not. Yeah. Germans were playing with that during World War II.
Yep. I mean, we'll see a version of this from Hydra.
Yes,
in Captain America and First Avenger.
Absolutely. No, I mean, like this concept is a well-worn, executed concept in not, well, I would say military aviation, really, because it hasn't been used in commercial aviation, but there's a lot of reasons for this. And one of the main reasons is that not only is its aerodynamics great and it's reliable for flight, it helps to prevent being picked up by radar and other types of tracking.
I did sort of a little bit of a deep. I'm not going to bore you all with the technology because the Wikipedia page is really exhaustively researched. Yeah. They have some good stuff, but like just listening to all the different things about how the reason it's painted that way is so it can adjust the colors a little bit, depending, to make it harder to visually spot. So they actually have a sensor on board that will detect where they are, how much sunlight is getting to it, and so they can adjust their flight path so that they are more concealed by the amount of sunlight that is hitting it. It's just fascinating, military technology. So I guess maybe they're getting their $45 billion worth.
Let me tell you this here. The cool part about this shot is that we get the shot of this soldier, and we do know who the actor is in this.
I don't. One of the things I learned listening to the commentary is that because the U.S. military, or I should say specifically the Air Force, were so welcoming, most of the soldiers you see are soldiers.
Oh, so
like great. The guy standing in front, as far as I could tell, is actually a real soldier. Like, and that's a real in-service B-2. They rolled it out and they said, you want a stealth bomber? Yeah. And so they rolled it out onto the thing, but because it has to be kept in a special air-conditioned hangar.
Right. Because
the special coating that they put on it has to be preserved. So they rolled it out just for that and then rolled it back in so that it can be preserved. So all these things are real things. They said the only rule they had is he was not allowed to shoot it from behind.
Oh.
So apparently there's some kind of secret technology thing that they did not want preserved in a movie that people would discuss minute by minute in 10 years.
Okay, because we were talked all about that. Now that's interesting because one of the stealth technologies on these types of aircraft is exhaust. Like, how does it buffer the obviously the forces that come out the back of the engine or the engines in this case? So that's probably it too. But the one of the things I do want to bring up about the stealthiness of this aircraft is the detail in how they designed the access doors and the landing gear doors. It's not your traditional door that's a rectangle. And you can see it in this shot, which is very clearly because it's right over the soldier here, right over his shoulder. It's kind of got angular edges to it. That is also aiding in its stealth ability, for lack of a better term, in that if it had been standard shaped doors, those seams would have actually provided more signals when radar and other things are bounced off it. And that's from basically what I've understand. I always take an interest in this type of aviation. That kind of stuff, that's where $45 billion goes. Figuring stuff out like that.
40 would have been a bargain, but 45 is really
45.
pushing. So we see on the plate that's on front of the landing gear that would go up, the destination 21068. Do you know the significance of that number?
Oh, February 10th, 1968.
Yeah.
What is that?
I think all of us around the Marvel fans around the globe are going, Rob, how could you not know that that's the birthday of Peter Popovic, the Swedish NHL defenseman from the Montreal Canadiens?
Oh.
He began his NHL career in Montreal, where he played for 5 seasons. He also played for the Rangers, the Penguins, and the Bruins.
Well, that's cool.
He is currently alive and running, and he went back home to his native Sweden, where he is working with the Swedish team right now.
This is your long way of saying that we don't know if there's any Marvel.
We don't know the significant number of that, too. But it could be that Jon Favreau is just a big fan of Peter Popovic.
Oh, that would be cool if that's the case. I hope that's the case. All right, way to go.
Shout out to Peter.
There we are.
So as we see then War Machine, I guess we're just going to call him War Machine now because that's what we're going to know him as for the rest of his time in the MCU. Flying over, we see a bunch of other planes there. The large cargo plane that's the Boeing B-52H Stratofortress. There also is another Boeing there. There's a Boeing C-17 Globemaster III. Those are the two sort of big cargo planes. We have a couple of actually, I would say there's one fighter jet, which is the Lockheed Martin F-22 Raptor. And then if you look farther on in the background, like right behind that, there's only one shot, is the Rockwell B-1 Lancer. That's a bomber. So that's the other sort of, there's like sort of 3 planes you think of when you think of the stealth technology. You think of this one, you think of like the sort of more arrowhead looking one, and then you think of this one, which is much more like an SR-71, like sort of the long, skinny type. And so that they have that in the background. And like I said, these are all actual working planes. These are not replicas. These are not ones that they CG'd in. These are actual real ones from the Air Force that they rolled out onto there and just arranged them the way they wanted to. So how heady must you be? Like, how much power must you feel flowing through your veins when you're like, no, I want the F-22 set about 2 feet more to the left.
I want to get this shot. I want to place the shot correctly.
I want to have all 3 planes in. So can you take that one and just have one of your soldiers just take it out about 50 feet behind?
Well, I love the way that they set this up, because as we get this great like sweeping, it's a point of view, almost like as if the camera, which it's not really, but almost like the camera's attached to like Rhodey's left shin, right? So we get this really cool shot that obviously is helicopter shot, not really drone yet, I wouldn't think. But they get this nice sweeping shot. They've CG'd in, Rhodey on the right side, and you get great the heat blurring, the lighting, the effects here is really nice. I love this shot. But yeah, you would think that there's a whole reason as to, somebody decided how they were going to lay out the tarmac here.
Yeah.
And that's pretty amazing. The military is like, look, this is gonna make us look cool. I know it's more complicated than that, but really, actually, it's kind of
at the end of the day, kind of. Yeah. And it looks like Tony's been really getting into the armor all, because boy, the Mark II is sure shiny. Like he really, I guess it's on display, so it makes sense. But like he really went to town on buffing it.
Now wait, so this is interesting in terms of the effects. So as we see, we go into a point of view from Rhodey inside the helmet before he touches down. Yep. And
when you see, like we talked about in the last one, he's back to the original OU. Yes. Like he's it's all white. Like, and so we see some of the real basic information, speed, telemetry, side and stuff too. And then as he drops down, it looks like there's no Jarvis, but there is some sort of AI or assistant on board, because it does start to identify people as he lands. Which,
now, so I found that interesting in that. Yeah. You have this UI that, again, is very basic, but it's nice, though. There's certainly that sort of retro look to it from the previous movie. But yeah, like it's starting to put up almost like, I kind of liken this to like little baseball cards, like they're popping up next to the people and even to the craft that's actually in the hangar. How does it have all that information about people?
That's a good question. Is it connecting back to the Stark database? Or is this something it's on board? It has information there.
There's no way it's been. Well, see, this is my question. You mean to tell me? First of all, it's got to be connecting. This is, I guess, my point. It has to be connecting because there's no way that suit that has been sitting in the Hall of Armor has been being updated. So it's connected to something.
True.
This goes to what we talked about in a previous couple minutes. Tony clearly has allowed this to happen and has allowed the connection to continue because it's got real-time information about what's going on here. That would be my assumption based on this. But I do think that's interesting that it would have things like, here's who these 5 guys are waiting to greet me as I touch down. That just seems very specific.
So now this I guess I should have researched this before I ask it, but hopefully your memory is better than mine. I seem to recall that after he takes this suit out for the first time, Tony brings it back in and then gets the data back and then paints it. Like I isn't there a whole montage of like how he wanted this suit like to be with the new gold and red?
Well, yeah, and
so
what
how
happened?
is there still this suit? Because I thought this suit was converted into the Mark III.
Well, no, now.
I honestly don't remember. I'm asking the question because I don't remember that.
Well, it's an upgrade. So no, they actually
are built from scratch.
Yes, it is. It actually is 2 different suits.
Okay.
So the Mark III is different. However, though, you are right. You go back to this, paint the suit. Let me just say this. I would think that in Tony, in assembling because we've talked about this before, I think. In the Hall of Armor, he has the Iron Man 1 suit.
Yes.
How?
Yeah, they actually says in the heads-up display facsimile. Like he recreated it essentially out of from original design.
Well,
so that's not. I don't think that suit works at all.
No,
it's probably not
right.
Even,
it's just there as a representation. But based on this, here's the deal. Tony's in a workshop. His workshop, he's into cars. Cars involve painting, and they also involve stripping of paint. So I would think that at some point in creating his little collection, he decided to say, okay, I'm going to return the Mark II suit to its original luster, and he just stripped the paint off, and that's it.
Okay,
that's going to be my theory.
I'm looking through my Marvel Studios visual dictionary.
To find the.
They don't say anything about it, but they do say the Mark III outer hull is weaker than the Mark II. Easily flies at high altitudes, equipped with the unibeam weapon. So I mean that's different in that one.
Right.
But then they show the Mark IV is what we saw at the Stark Expo.
Right.
So because Mark III obviously got trashed. In the fight with Ironmonger on the roof of the Stark Industries.
But I will tell you this, though, as we switch from the point of view now to where Rhodey is actually landing, and he's doing it very well. So clearly, again, Rhodey's road trip,
right?
He got really good at maneuvering the suit. I'm just saying. Here's the thing. Absolutely gorgeous shot when he lands because the camera's pivoting. You're seeing all of the aircraft that we just discussed. But the suit is crazy, shiny, and sharp.
Yeah, it is.
It's a little too much. And here's, I guess, it makes it look really CGI-y.
It does.
But I'm wondering if that is not because he is in the bright desert sun. He is landing on a gray or beige flat space. And maybe that is what it would actually look like if you were wearing the suit in those conditions. I'm not sure. Maybe my eye, this is one of those situations where your eye is seeing it, your brain thinks what it should see, and that's fighting with what actually would be because you can't establish a connection between the two. I may have just made that up.
And so we have the transmission from Rhodey, and that's the only dialogue in this minute because he comes to a landing, and that's it. That's where our minute comes to an end.
The mask goes up, and I love that shot. Because I mean, it's just
obviously the soldiers on the ground are like, "Hey, Iron Man's back, and he's in his original armor."
No, right? Yeah, right. No, I mean, like I love the fact that you can see that everyone is converging on him. The shot starts to pan out a little bit, and you can see, and just the music, everything. This whole thing is that whoa. I mean, I guess the theme is that the good guys have now got the technology to do their good guy things.
It is. They're like, that's not how I'm feeling at the moment.
Not how I'm feeling,
that's what the swelling music is sort of like. All right, it's in American hands now.
Right.
Things are going to go great,
and everything's going to be fine. But
because there's no chance that there's a Hydra agent here. Why would you even think that?
Oh, snap.
Right.
Wait. Oh, no.
I'm just saying.
You just changed everything.
This is obviously this is the benefit of hindsight. Like, I mean, we're assigning things in.
Oh,
you know,
no.
saying,
That's.
But I gotta say, I'm gonna blow your mind further. Even though that thing, all these soldiers know who Captain Marvel was and what she did.
Oh,
that happened in continuity time 15 years earlier.
Oh,
chances are that Major Allen was already in the Air Force, as was Captain Carol Danvers at the same time.
What? Yes.
I mean, I'm not saying every 18-year-old kid who just got his head shaved for the first time and is hoping to one day sit behind the stick of a plane knows everything, but like she's Air Force, like they know, I mean, like those were not secret events.
We've talked about this before. Like right here, when you just said that about the Hydra agent, like, okay, right there, that's a whole what if episode waiting to happen.
Yeah.
You go right back.
Yeah, true.
You go to this moment and you show Rhodey coming landing down. Everyone's merging, but there's one soldier who's in the back who's going another way. And he walks behind a warehouse and he pulls out his little communicator and he says,
"Yep,
he's here. What do I do?" And
Hydra.
Yes, like what happens then?
So the Disney Plus series that will never happen would be the one I'd be interested in. Is that you follow a young recruit of Hydra from like the 90s all the way through to Endgame.
Oh wow!
Like it's like a Breaking Bad. Like you follow this, and maybe by the end he breaks good. Like he turns out to be a hero. But you create a new character and then have them in the background of these events all the way through, kind of like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. style. But like you have like different angles of these things that we're seeing. So he's there. He's at all these different events of these heroic events, even though like they're actually like turning things to their own ends. Like you have cameos from Sitwell and it would be interesting to see it from that perspective. But of course that's really stepping into the darkness, and I don't think
what you're describing is the Forrest Gump of the MCU.
Yes. Yes, but the evil Forrest Gump of the not necessarily like I was there at the World's Fair when they Stark showed off his flying car. No, it's sort of like I was there and I saw it and I know that the leader needed to know this information, so I told him this.
Oh, but I mean,
I was there. I helped program Arnim Zola's original design to download his consciousness into the computer.
But I almost kind of think then you could go the other route and you could just make it full on Forrest Gump, where he's the guy who's like coming in. He's like, yeah, so I was there and I saw that this wire was unplugged and I plugged it in and then the portals opened and everything went well. Like end of story. Like stuff you didn't even know.
The battle with Ironmonger is happening on there, and he's like, hey, somebody forgot to plug in the arc reactor. It's at full power now, Tony. Yeah.
Oh my. Can you imagine that? You just find out the whole MCU was just a sham because it was all this one guy who just kept falling into situations.
Just happened to all these kind of things.
Oh my god!
Hey Cap, you dropped your shield. like he's constantly there, like throwing it back, like it never actually bounces off. It's always this guy, like, hey, it fell on the ground. Here you go, and then we see him like catch it and punch an alien in the face. Take that, Chitauri.
Oh. Well, there you go. Well, that's not happening. It's not going to happen.
No, it's not happening.
That would be pretty great.
Yeah. So that's as we mentioned the U.S. military and we've mentioned the Montreal Canadiens. You know what the two of them have in common?
No.
Uniforms.
Oh.
And if you want to have your own type of uniform, your own clothing that matches with all the other fans of Sansang Legion, you can do so because we have our own merchandise. Yay! Yes, we do. Nextweek.com/merch. You can find all the different things that we have. We got masks. We have shirts, we have mugs, we have any of that kind of stuff to show your uniformity with all of the Legion, the Merry Marvel Marching Society here at the Marvel Movie Minute. You can do so, and a little bit of that comes back to us to help us keep the show running because bandwidth ain't free and neither is server space. So you can nextweek.com/merch buy stuff for you, tell us about it, send pictures of it. We would like to see our stuff in the world more than just Rob and I sending stuff back and forth. Could you believe they made this? Well, yeah, but they made this too.
Look at my pillow.
Look at my mug. So you can do that. So we'll be back in 62 when we actually have dialogue again. And so we'll have them as the U.S. military, the heroes, finally get the chance to have the access to Star technologies. And so things will go great from here.
Yeah.
Enough said.
Bye.